while the students are joining, maybe some of the students can start to talk about his project in terms of storytelling, okay? How they can explain to other people the story about what is their proposal, no? The proposal that they are doing. And after that, I will start to talk slowly, okay? And at the end of this workshop, online workshop, we can fix the concept about how should be the approach, okay, of the things that we are doing. Who want to talk?
I can do it.
You can do it, Lydell? Okay. Venga, let's go ahead. Can you summarize your project with one drawing? And that drawing should be the one that has all the design elements of your proposal, okay? And then you tell us the story, no? And then we should have the design concept. Can you do it? Let's go ahead, Lydell.
Basically, my project was like looking into like unknown areas, which is what terra incognita translates to. And the space, the area, the region I looked into is the Tonle Sap region, and then during the course of my thesis research, I came up with like the programs that would potentially could serve like the public and also like the research aspects of the buildings. And the location of my project is in like the Kampong Kliang village, which is a floating village, roughly 50 kilometers away from like Siem Reap city. And the process I did before was in terms of like prototyping. So the quality I observed from like the buildings here was the idea of like lightness and flexibility. The lightness in terms of like the tectonics and the building, the space, and flexibility in terms of the program and the way of living. And then I did the prototypes of like from translating from the from the observed like buildings there. So the translated into various like looking into like proportion scales, the bracing and then flotation, and using lightweight columns to channel that idea of like lightness. And again, in terms of like another other prototypes, looking at like how the space underneath the buildings can be used according to like the changing water environment. And then looking at like various aspects of the site, like the pathways and such, and other prototypes to look at like how the previous like openings can be like translated again. So in the second prototype, what I did was basically just like use those like tectonics and then translate it for like the different labs that I had in there, and also the training facilities and accommodation and offices. And the first zones is like at the aquaculture zone. So they have these 4 labs there. And in the first one, the analytical lab, I did like the um, prototypes from before, and then the second prototype on the right, leading to the design in the middle. So basically, this one was because this is the first like main lab leading to the other ones. It had to have like a sense of like an arrival within the site. So like having this, I used a confrontational like language where there's this like strong axis. If you look in the plan on the right, like
here we should start to understand your design concept, not the details.
Okay.
So focus overall picture.
So the idea, the concept is just like a looking into like how people would build there, like in terms of like the column like sizes, and then like the heights of the column, and then like what people are familiar there with, like in terms of the space, and then I used it a bit more differently. Like they would not typically use these kind of languages there in terms of like organizing the space, but I do it because with my program it's a lab which is different from what they're used to, which is small houses separated. So I use similar elements in terms of like the small masses on like stilts, but I try to incorporate it like other elements into it, like floating pathways or floating like public spaces. I had it in orange. So basically, it's just like the smaller parts that people are used to seeing there. I try to incorporate it into like a bigger scale, where like there's a small complex related to one another. And with the second, this one is, I use a similar thing again here. So the idea is that I'm using
to explain your concept. I mean, we should do it like in 2 minutes. No, can you summarize something like, my project is this thing and the master plan is like that, and then come with these design elements and blah blah blah. Can you find something to summarize this thing, because we should see this thing just in a few seconds and all the people should understand.
If you want a few seconds, then basically it's this. I observed the existing conditions of the buildings in the Laysak region, and then I translated those vernaculars for a modern program, which is the lab. That's basically what I did for my project, and yeah.
It should be okay. Then now we are going to ask to your colleagues. That's anyone can explain what is the design concept that Lydell explained just now? Does anyone understand the things that he is doing? For example, any volunteer want to talk? What is the design concept that you guys have seen?
May I try?
Yeah, no.
So from my understanding, I see him like analyze the quality of the both vernacular space and both vernacular element, and then he adapt it into his architecture and see how it can go further to serve the function of the architecture. That's my understanding right now.
But is there any design concept? Because this is a kind of way to approach, no? This how can be the solution for this proposal, no? But can you see there design concept? It was Nakanya, right? The one talking, no? If you need to say the design concept, he is trying to do this thing, no? The design concept is what? Can you see it?
The lightness, flexibility thing.
Lightness, flexibility, that can be a concept, yeah. And then anything that we can see how to represent that lightness, that flexibility. I am Maki. You know this project very well. Okay, let's see a little bit what is the things that is happening here. Okay, I'm going to share the screen. Basically, the things that you guys start to do in the pre-thesis is this thing, no? I mean, you have a topic, no? Topic definition and the analysis, and then you have the problems. Problem 1, problem 2, problem 3. Okay, then you have the breakdown with the different problems that are the topics that you guys are interested or start to find, no, along the research that you have done. And through the case study and some literature review and some other information that you are finding, you start to find solutions about that problem, no? How that problem can be solved, okay? That is the things that Lydell start to talk, no, with this reshare and data presentation, how is the prototyping these parasites, no? Okay, and when he start to talk, okay, he start to focus, no, in different combinations, okay, in solution 1 with the solution 4, each topic, no? So all these things, the green one is the storytelling, is the thing, no, that we can see that is the meaning, no, of our project, no? And that will be the things that we are going to use to do the marketing, no, the merchandising, to sell our proposal, because that is the origin, that storytelling is the origin of our design concept, okay? And that is the things that we don't see so clear yet, okay, in the proposal of Lydell, okay? We can see individually the fragmented solutions, okay, but we cannot see this overall idea, okay, to link all these connected things that he has, no? So when you have all this connection and all these things fully clear, then we can come up with the vision, no? How we see and how we understand what is our design concept. Okay, all this slide is the one that I use for the design studio, no, the previous semester, no, but I just add more things just to explain this thing of the design concept. So at the end of our pre-thesis, we should have a kind of vision, okay, with one sketch that is going to be the one that is capable to represent all the different elements that you guys are going to explore later on when you are going to develop your proposal, okay? So at the end, that design concept is going to talk about the aesthetic, that is something very clear that we can see in the project of Lydell, okay, about the structure and about the function, no? That's going to be the three things, no? The main three elements, no? And then we will have that picture, that image that can combine these three aspects, okay? So that should be, at the end of your pre-thesis, you should have in mind this vision, and then will be the starting point of your thesis. And now the other day in our room, in the one of Ayan, Maggie, and me, we have 6 students. 4 of them have this thing. 2 of them, this information still is missing. So that's why they are very struggling with the problem and how to develop the proposal. No, why? Because the design concept is not so clear yet. Okay, the most of the other 4, at least they have this thing and they know, okay, where going to be the direction, okay? So then let's go to have a few sample. I mean, I always put this sample because it's this sample that is very clear. I think everybody knows this slide. I put always this sample because no one is going to copy this thing. If I put a modern sample, everybody will copy that modern sample, but no one is going to do this collision in Rome, no? Because it's out of the fashion, right? So this is one place that the main concept is to gather the people, okay? And it's one building that is related with the godness, with to pray and everything, no? Related about religion, okay? So the building is talking about the function and about the stability, the structure, and about the beauty, okay? But the main concept is how to gather all these people for praying, no? Okay, how to make a divine, no, a space for God, no? Okay, but basically we can see here in the section, the one in the, I cannot point it, the one here, okay, the one here we can see already what is the design concept, no? It's like in that moment, I mean, how to represent the sphere, okay, the circle in a 3D, the sphere, okay, is something that is related with God. So at the end, you can have your analysis, you can have your storytelling, but you need to combine that storytelling in just a simple image that is going to be the main idea. So in this case, is how to represent the sphere, okay, in the architecture, and all the things, how to build, how is the detail, the style of all around, okay, is the secondary thing. But the main point here is the concept is to build this element, no? So at the end, the concept is how to build these architectural elements, no? The sphere, the wall, the bridge, blah, 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 no? So we need to identify what is the strength of our proposal, okay? And then you come up with your drawings, okay? You can use this thing to be the image, no? To sell your proposal, no? The logo nowadays. So it's one building that is 2,000 years ago, and they already thinking how should be the logo of that building, okay, and the space. So at the end, we are talking about the function, okay, we are talking about the stability, the structure, and the beauty, no, that is the image, okay. Is this clear? Anyone, any doubts until here?
No, Jan, it's clear.
So then, the thing is, what are the elements to using the design concept? So let's say to understand all this information clear, I'm going to do a kind of analogy. Okay, so if we are thinking in colors, any one of you can explain what is this thing that you guys are seeing? Yeah? No one know what is this thing? It's right in here, right? Okay, can anyone explain this slide? Any volunteer? What is the things that you guys are understanding by seeing this image?
It's the color view, Ajahn. Like we have the 3 primary color, and then it's placed on each, each side of the circle, and the area in between each primary color would be 2 color would be combined and make a secondary color. And then it's gonna make a tertiary color, and all the 3 primary color combined together would give you light gray or a dark gray color.
Okay, then can you think what is going to be next if we need to apply this thing in terms of architecture, how you can use this well to explain your design concept? Okay, let's say that how we can use this thing, no? So at the end, if we go by the primary colors, it's like it's going to be the yellow, the red, and the blue one, right? So if for some circumstances our main strength in our proposal are the secondary, which the project is going to look like in this way, right? Okay, and for some reason, if we have so much information, okay, and too much level of details, suddenly our proposal is going to will have a lot of information, no, a lot of layers, no, a lot of features, our building, no, because we have been doing more research, more investigation, we have found more elements, so suddenly our proposal start to be more complex and more complex, no? But everything coming per the primary theme, no? But what is these primary themes in architecture? Can anyone guess which are these primary elements that we use in design concept in architecture?
The aesthetics, function, aesthetic,
Aesthetic, function, and what is the other one?
Structure.
Stability.
The structure, yeah. So, but why are this one? Just because I mentioned before, or do you guys know why are this one and no others?
also from Vitruvius, Ajahn.
I put this slide, no, just to make a kind of hook. Okay, so if you guys studying the history of architecture, no, the Renaissance, no, in Italy, they start to base everything because they discovered this book, no, and this book is talking that the primary elements of the architecture of one building you can define, no, that there are these 3 basic elements that are this thing, no, the function, the beauty, and the stability. Okay, so basically this is the things that we are doing, no. So we have our primary ideas, okay, to define our concept are going to be based in these three elements. Okay, so our design concept, we will need to define in that image that we are looking, no, to do the marketing, no, to explain what is our design concept. We should see these three elements clear, no, in the early beginning. Okay, and that will be the primary ideas. Okay, then based on our research, okay, we have secondary ideas and tertiary ideas. So I believe that when Lydell was talking, he's talking more about these secondary and tertiary ideas than the primary one. So that one is make difficult to understand what is the design concept that he has. He know it. I mean, it's something about these parasite buildings, this lightness, this flexibility. Okay, but still it's not clear how to represent this thing and communicate this. Okay, so it's like he just need to work a bit more to elaborate that, no? But that means that when we are reading the story, when we are listening him, okay, it's like we are seeing this thing, no, in Lydell. Okay, but the thing is we miss this idea. So when he's doing the storytelling of the presentation, then he will need to start first in a high level, then jump to a secondary level of detail, and then put all the details. And then the story is clear and it's easy to follow him. Okay, but until now it's like most of the information that he has are in this area. Okay, but we have the lack of this one. These elements, no, this analysis, the understanding of this thing is going to give us a kind of level of complexity. That is the things that we saw in the case of Lydell. Okay, so all this complexity coming because of the prethesis, the output, the conclusion of your prethesis. So we should have here all the case studies, all this information, and then when you are testing this thing every Saturday, every first Saturday of every month with your Ajan in the room, you will see that there are solutions that are logic, everybody agree, start to be more interesting, and there are solutions that it look like it doesn't work. So at the end, you just need to focus in which one is the combination of all the things that you are talking, no? Okay, and then come up with what is that story, and then translate that storytelling into a design concept. Okay, I want to build a sphere, no, as per in the Coliseum in Rome, no, because represent all this storytelling, that is all the analysis that I have done, okay, in my building, no, it can represent in that image. I try to do with this year in the design studio, but we fail. I mean, not capable to do with the students this thing. But at the end, it's like they are doing the high-rise building, no, as per you guys were doing the last year. So the thing is, we try to do with the case study to define which one are the components of your a high-rise building, no? Okay, let's say here is going to be your proposal, no? So when you have all this work done with the prethesis, okay, at the end you should have a kind of conclusion that whatever is your building, here you should write your building, no? The name of the building of Lydell, the name of building of Nakanya, the proposal, okay, and all this should have different elements of design. That in this case of the high-rise building is going to be the verticality, it's going to be the layout of the plan, it's going to be the building core, the structure, the facade. So all this complexity, okay, that we are talking here, we should be capable to do this mapping, okay, okay, with all the things that we should be talking, okay, related with a high-rise building, okay, putting here, no, writing here. So if your building doesn't have any of these elements, it's not a high-rise building. So you should be capable to have a critical thinking, as per you have done successfully your prethesis, to write down what are all the things that your building should have, no, to be the building that you want to design. Okay, so for example, this one, and I think the lecture of today, I mean, is after seeing this thing, I mean, you guys should share, as per Lydell was doing in the beginning, your storytelling, to see if all of us can understand your storytelling and understand what is your design concept. And maybe I think for the next week we can move forward, okay, about how to represent and how to make that that geometry of that design concept. So, for example, the sample that I'm using this semester is this Burj Khalifa in Dubai, because the assignment is a high-rise building. Okay, so basically it's like, see, you have your high-rise building, no, that should be something vertical. Need to find the layout of the different plans, a building core, the structure, the facade. Okay, so when you have all this research, the design concept can be the flower, not typical from the desert, no, from the Middle East, no. They use the architect use this reference. Why? Because here in this flower you can see verticality, you can see a way to make the layout of that building, you can see where are the building core, you can see how is the structure, you can see how is the facade. So we can see here, right? Can you guys see, if we break down the high-rise building, can you see here that all that elements are in the nature? Can you see here the different verticality? Can you see here a layout, a potential layout, no, to try to get all this idea to how to represent? Okay, so here is the moment that we have our design concept with all our work, no. Then we need to jump from this design concept, that is the Coliseum, it was to how to build the sphere, no? Okay, so this one, once that you have the design concept, there is another step, and it's how you can translate this thing in a physical world, no? And then you will start to find a kind of geometry, okay, to make this thing in a geometry, and you will try to find a kind of rule, no, how these things work, okay, and then you start to see here, no, that this is something related between this, and the final product, no, that is this one, no. You can start to see here the shape, right, of the building, no. And this one is one representation that is in 2D, no, to understand how this flower, I mean, can represent in a 2D, no. But at the end, we are doing architecture, and we need to build in a 3D. So from this step, that is the understanding of this geometrization, we can call this one design concept. Maybe I can do this thing bigger, no? You guys can. Okay, this one we can call design concept, no, that is based in all your research, that represent your previous research. This one we can call systematization, geometrization, no, how to make this thing like a system to understand all this design concept in terms of a geometry, because we are going to start to design, to build, okay? And this one is a kind of matrix, no? In the moment that you put this system from 2D in 3D, because you are generating a kind of matrix, no? And in this case, the matrix is, no, is the mathematic formula, no, that is giving you the volume, no, in the 3D. And this is the things that happen here, no, as a final product, no. So you find a kind of rule about how this system can generate, no, the volume, no, in the 3D, and then you find a kind of formula. If the building is higher, the plan drawing are going to be, the layout of the plan are going to be smaller, no. If you're building in the lower part, since it is a high-rise building, you need the wind force, no, the stability, which is more stable on the and wider on the bottom, and go thinner and thinner on the top. Why? Just because the structural reason, no? If you put, I mean, in the moment that the wind is pressure on the top, I mean, the strain on the bottom is going to be higher, no? So that's why they try to reduce that. Okay. So at the end, we have the design concept. We need to find a kind of geometry that represent that, and then we need to start to think how that thing is going to appear in the 3D. So it's like going to be very dense. That matrix is going to be bigger, okay, on the bottom in this case, okay, and it's going to be higher in the on the top, no, smaller on the top. It's something similar to the things that we found here. Okay, at the end, the point is to build this sphere, no? For some reason, per the structural reason. I mean, on the bottom is different than the things that the problems, that the structural reasons that you have on the top. Okay, and then you start, if you think in this building, I mean, there are big lessons, no, of architecture here, no? So at the end is to support all these portions, you can make a lot of void, no, and a lot of opening, no, because this one, if I'm not wrong, is like 6 meters or something like that, if I don't remember wrongly. Okay, so at the end, you don't need to put all these 6 meter full occupied, no, by a mass, no. So it's like you can do a lot of openings here, no, to make lighter. Okay, and then it's giving you at the same time the third ideas, no, to make this fast shape in the interior, no. So that is the I think you have the idea. The concept is how to build the sphere, and then you come up with how it's going to be that geometry, and then you just think how is the volume. So in this case, it's going to be straight on the bottom, okay, and this one following as per the structural reason how to cover that thing, no. Okay, so if you look, basically, I mean, the good sample of architecture is always following kind of this idea that we are talking here. Okay, so I think to make this thing useful is I believe that some of you shouldn't be signed now and start to talk about this design concept and how you guys are trying to jump. Because now your problem is to find this geometry related with your design concept and then build up in a 3D. So many of you have this thing but are struggling, okay, about how to find this geometry that makes sense and explain your design concept and then come up with your building. So that is the things for today. I mean, this is a workshop. The idea of the workshop is like we mentioned this thing and now we should have okay, like 2-3 hours for you guys to come up with this kind of geometrization related with your design concept, and then start with your building. And we should find the formula at the end of this workshop about how your building should be settled in the 3D. No? So the idea is like, I want you to start to share, okay, some of you start to share the thesis, no, and start to talk about your storytelling, your design concept, and how you are trying to translate this thing in a geometry that come up with a 3D volume. Nakanya, I hear that you are doing very well. Can you explain this thing with your proposal?
So I would like to start with the background of my project first. So my project is a new local museum of Bang Khun Thian. The very initial idea start from the policy of the Bangkok government that Bangkok is gonna be the city of art and culture. Actually, there are like 5 categories of them, but the policy that leads Bangkok to write the plan of local museum of Bangkok is that Bangkok is to be the city of high quality of living and arts and culture. So the local museum of Bangkok, like in every district, was set up during around 2003, and until today there is already 27 districts that already set up the local museum of that district. And the district that I choose to do is Bang Khun Thian because there are 2 or 3 important points of this local museum. The first one is that the local museum of Bang Khun Thian is the one of the 4 first local museum that Bangkok set up. So I look up and see like why they set up 4 museum in 4 districts. So the first 3 district, which is I think Bang Rak, Sampantawong, and Bangkok Noi, is the district of the historical area of Bangkok, but Bang Khun Thian is the area of like the combination between the ecosystem, like the seashore ecosystem, because this is the only district of Bangkok that is next to the Altai Sea. So this is the reason that Bangkok give this district 1 local museum for the ecosystem. And the second importance is that number of the people that goes to this local museum is the highest of all museum in Bangkok. So I decide to like go and look like what I can do with it. So the existing condition of the museum is not so good. Like there is not enough space for the people and the function is like confusing. So my research question and object is that the first one is what are the problems of the Bang Khun Thian local museum, and it leads to the second question is that what should be the relevant architectural design theory, the exhibition design theory, and the last one is the appropriate aspect from the site that can generate a program, because local museum from the theory of Mr. Lek Viriyapan, it should be something that engage to the local people as well. So my idea of architecture, is the architecture of coexistence, because from the background and from all the aspects of this area, I will try to make a circular story. Like there is the from the area that I observe, I try to see how my architecture can like link the story of this area and make it into a full circle that people can go and observe, which the local museum could like lift up the quality of the people who live in that area as well, by like being a place that the tourists can come and learn the story of the local and like see the interrelationship between them and the local, like with the ecosystem and with the commercial. So it's gonna create a circular economy for this area as well. And it's gonna be the place that people can learn the relationship between the society, the seashore ecosystem, and the commercial, which is the 3 things that make Bang Khun Thian Bang Khun Thian. And my idea is also that anywhere can be an exhibition, whether it's an exhibition room or another function. I will try to make them all to be a place that people can learn something by using the function. And the last thing is the combination between vernacular and modern, because this is one of the identity of Bang Khun Thian, that it's the area that have a variety of function from agriculture to a huge industry.
So basically, this can be the storytelling, no? As per your conclusion of all your research, we can say the elements you will need to design are that slide, no?
Okay.
But that one, I mean, you need to how to represent that thing, no, in a concept. Do you have any picture that can grab all this intention, no? That is the storytelling, the strength, that one picture that can grab all these things.
One picture. Maybe it's gonna be. For now, I don't really have that image yet, but in my opinion, for me, it's gonna be this picture.
Okay, why you relate? How you can relate this information to? I mean, this picture with the information of the slide.
Because this is like one of the prototype that I am trying to do, like try to make an experiment making the architecture into that concept. And this is actually one of the boathouse design that I designed. It's a part of the museum. As I say that I wanted tourists who come to my architecture to like learn about the local through my architecture by either looking, either sensing, or either using the function. So this boathouse.
You are talking to mix, no, the local people with the foreigner, with the tourists, or with the people from outside, no. So you are talking about a kind of mixing, no, different things, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like how you represent that thing in this image.
Yeah. So firstly, this is a place that combine between the local way of life, like the local element, and with a new lifestyle, which is like it's a boathouse for the kayak and for the local boat that both local people and the tourists can come and use this boathouse together. So like it's gonna be a place that create the socialization, and from the appearance of its architecture, I use the vernacular and try to experiment it in a new way to make it suit more with the function. So it's kind of like the first experiment to the concept. Like social to social and like local to the people from outside, and vernacular architecture to modern thing.
I would like to ask to any other of your colleagues, no, if any one of you can see in this picture that if the intention not to mix the people is represented in this architecture, or until now you can see that the mix that Nakanya is explaining is only in how to use this thing, no? Because one user is going to be the local, another will be the outsider, and it's only about the way to use the building, no? But is there anything here that we can see the representation about how to mix these two users in this case? Anyone see this thing or not? Does anyone see this? Or Nakanya need to represent this thing in a more strongest way? Yamaki, you want to something?
I think the Nakanya has to explain first, in what aspect of what you mean by vernacular. When you mention a vernacular, probably people might have like different impression about what it means by like local architecture. I think if the graphic, the primary graphic can inform, the audience that in which particular components that you want to take up. Probably, for example, is it a space, or is it a particular elements, or it is about columns or walls or roof or something, and then how it's put together and becomes a new architecture. I think this one is very important, because when we generalize that in terms of style, and since you are not going to like these are everything according to vernacular, but this is more like extraction. You extract some particular part, you should mention. I think that's what Ajahn Miguel tries to explain today is like trying to create just one snapshot of sketch, and it tells the whole story, which is one thing. Okay, and after, beyond that is like what Ajahn Miguel says is about storytelling. The storytelling is probably correct me if I'm wrong, it can be like a little bit of elaboration. Probably if you're writing 300 words, whereas if it's a sketch, we just like shoot, you know, the audience just one snapshot and it understands everything. So it should combine simplicity and complexity within one picture. And it should look more diagrammatic. I don't know. Probably this one is more like a final product. I might feel that there's something vernacular, but I don't get it. You know, probably is, you know, similar to what in your mind is. What actually you want to mean in vernacular here? It was the local architecture.
So let me explain the
You have to be concise, Nakanya. Don't like make it long or elaborate.
Okay, so let me explain the vernacular thing first. I define it into two things. The first one is the space. You can see these three diagrams. The space that is the vernacular that I found a lot in this area. Firstly, is the I call it stable structure and amphibious activity, which is like the boat house that the structure would be placed, but the activity depends on the tidal up and down. The second one is the stable structure and the stable activity. And the last one is the amphibious structure, like the structure that move up and down according to the tidal. And the vernacular material that I found is like the concrete, the bamboo, kok, and wood. And for the vernacular elements that I use in my design, the first one is the house of the people in that area, which mostly are made from the combination between wood and the concrete column due to the salinity of the water. The second one is the walkway, the bamboo walkway, which is quite very narrow. And the last one is the fisherman's slide, like for the pier to goes up and down according to the tidal. You can see that one side of it is like the smooth part, and the second part is the part with the like a little step. This is used for like bringing your stuff up and down. And this is the analysis of the house that I analyzed the size, the use of the function, like the height of the house, and the facade style, which is like the rectangle style, the roof, the idea of the roof structure. You can see the narrow rectangle structure and top up with the top. Yeah, and this is the style of the weaving of the tools in this area for the fisheries. Yeah, so I like try to use this thing to like create an architecture.
Okay. Let me clarify this a little bit of what today we are looking for. Probably we might haven't had like a little talk first, I think, in the beginning, and the students just don't understand what today's standpoint is. อาจารย์โต๊ะอยู่ไหมคะ
อยู่ค่ะ
I think
here
โทษนะครับอากาศแห้งผิวแห้งปากแห้งเป็นนิดแต่ ลิปมัน
What happened? Actually,
yes.
Let me finish a little bit. I think some students probably they don't get the grasp upon why we set up today's lecture and the workshop. Actually, we have been through a lot of reviews, and then we discovered that some students, even though they have something in their hands, like they are so resourceful and thoughtful, they have concepts, they have some ideas, but they're difficult to convey within like a very, very concise and a very brief way. So that's why today our session is set up. Ajahn Miguel has mentioned once in our thesis review, a couple of months ago, that it should be better if the students can come up with just one plate, like one diagram, and it captures all the concepts, ideas that what he calls as a conceptual I don't know, diagram or sketch. So it's diagrammatic, it is concise, it does one snapshot and takes all. I think this one is really useful. And what he talks that we mentioned seems to synchronize what I learned from when I was in the US. I was studying, and also when I was studying my research classes. Usually my professors usually say, if you can convey your idea when you're bumping into your friends in the elevator, you're taking the elevator from first floor to the 5th floor, the 10th floor, and you can tell them everything about your PhD thesis. That means you really understand it. If 1 minute can use for telling the whole story, it means you really understand it. But if you need to elaborate, like, Ajahn Ka, I need like 15 minutes to tell you what I'm thinking, it means probably you probably don't you cannot organize your ideas well enough. That's why you can't tell them in a couple of words. That's why it comes to today's lecture, today's workshop, that if possible you guys should have this. I think it would open a new door, a new gate to like the way that we work for architecture. And it should be concise. That's why I asked Nakanya, if you have the ideas of your architecture, this is my architecture, Ajahn. It can be defined by 2, 3 sentences, or even 1 sentence, if it can be that way, And likewise to the diagram, it can also be conceptualized within 1 diagram, similar to the pantheon, the concept of like cosmology. Cosmology is like the word of God. What conceptualized within the mind of the architect was like the spherical. The people in that time, they didn't have the notion of like the world is spherical. They thought that probably our world was flat, but what they conceptualized, the thinking, is the universe, the sphere, the cosmology of God is spherical. That's why they depicted something like a dome on top, and if you draw the lines of this like continuous, it would touch like perfectly to the floor. So this one is like another conceptualized, like another half of sphere, which is the architect did not depict like physically, but the projection like conceptually, the metaphorical metaphysic of the sphere. So that's give a very clear and good conception of what he means in his architecture. So when it comes to your concept, we want to know what do you need to combine, and finally it yields a final result. And if it can be really brief, it's going to be really really good. I think this one is what we are looking for today. So talk by the narrative about the story, like Nakanya presentation earlier, was very good, but it is probably for like the whole length of the presentation. But if you have only, you bump into your friend in elevator, you're not going to have like 5 minutes. Okay.
Basically, I mean, in the case of Nakanya, okay, I think now with the explanation of Ajahn Maggie, I think you understand easier, right?
Yes, it's hard.
But let's say, okay, with the things, because it's looked like when Ajahn Maggie was saying this thing, it looked like all this idea coming from the West, but I don't want to say that. So I want to say that there is a level in the architecture that when you use this kind of elements, okay, suddenly you are going to play in the champion league, no? If you look through the successful architect in Thailand, okay, you will see that they are using this kind of language, okay, and I'm going to explain, and I'm going to explain here a sample. No? I'm going to share sample of architects, Thai architect that you guys know, no? Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes, Satan.
Okay. Everybody know this one, right? Everybody know this one?
Yes.
This is one of the most successful architects, no, in Thailand, right? He was in the school, no? In our school. Topic that he is using for this hotel laboris, topic of interest of the design concept, he explained in the lecture that he did in our school, okay? He went to see the Harry Potter castle, no, with his son, no? And he tried to use the fantasy, no? The fantasy and recreate in the plot, no? A kind of fantasy world, no? That you have a kind of experience, no? As a user, no? And pop up with a kind of architecture very unique, no? But what is the thing that he tried to do? I think Nakanya should start to think in this kind of diagram that is the vernacular architecture, okay? Then that is the things that come from outside, that is in Kauyae, okay? And then this is a happy idea, no? That will be the design concept for how the building is going to look like, no? It's integrated the vernacular architecture with the European Western architecture typical of Kauyae, no? Because everybody, I mean, my understanding of Kauyae is like everybody that has money just go there and create his own world, no? So become a kind of Disneyland, no? As per his mention here, no? When he's talking about his project, no? In Kauyae, no? That at the end, everybody with money go to Kauyae and do whatever they want, no? And you can have the yellow submarine, you can have vineyards, no? Last time that I went to Kauyae was 2 weeks, and there was one vineyard that has a name, a Spanish name. I went there looking for the storytelling. No, what is the relation? No, we want to look international, and we just grab one word that is not related with English, and we just put. But we are not related with anything of Italy or Spain. No, so it's like everybody try to make his dream there. No, in Kauyae. No, just then become this kind of silhouette, and then this is the building, no, and this kind of context, no, to explain the context, to explain the fantasy, and at the end you just need to elaborate the boundary and make all this thing like an island, totally different, no, to get this user experience, no. That this one is something that I'm not going to explain here, no, but it's this thing of the labyrinth, that fantasy, that is the things that you try, no, okay, to make. And then this is the concept, no? And suddenly you come with a lot of small ideas, no? That are these tertiary ideas just because of the combination with the primary, the secondary, and the third ideas. You got it? Okay, and then this is the image. Now, Nakanya is showing us this image, but until now she is not capable to explain, all these things from where coming, no? You get what I mean?
Yes, Satan.
Okay. If we go to another Thai architect that is very successful, okay, I'm going to put a sample that is not architecture, but I can see that he put this in. I mean, topic interest, the same story, no? Okay. This one. Okay. Any one of you know who is this one? Okay. This is an intervention, so it's not architecture, no? But the idea, okay, in terms of the materiality, okay, this is Bunsen, no? Bunsen Premada, no? The architect of the Cantana Institute, no? Because this is the last work that he did, no? For this wonderful festival, no? 1 month ago, something like that. So he prepared one area for the people to relax, no? Meanwhile, the concert music. But there is an intention here. There is elements, no? That the combination of the element give you one aesthetic, no? And there is something related. This is an artistic intervention, so there is no a proper function, there is no a proper structure, there is no a proper aesthetic, no? But at the end, the most important thing, okay, as a building, here is the aesthetic. So at the end, he's publishing all these kind of things in the International Architectural Magazine. Why? Because he has this element, no? He's looking for the aesthetic. He's looking for the material, how to work with the material. Okay, has a very powerful image that he's explaining the basic design elements that we architects use, no? Okay, maybe he come up with some inspiration or something from another period, another work, and he just tried to adjust to the Thai context. No? I don't know if this has meaning, some meaning in the Thai character. I don't think so, right? Is any letter or something, Ayamagi? Okay, so the things that I want to say is like all these Thai architects that are really successful in the International Thai magazine are using this thing. If you look the work of Amata, the gun of the architect of the commons, okay, he's using the same element. So if you guys start to work in how to use these architectural elements of your design as early as possible, so suddenly you can improve and you can perform much more better than this architect that nowadays are dealing, no? Because at the end, guys, you need to supersede what your previous college was doing before.
You mentioned that one shot, one plate. I mean, sometimes it's really difficult to get because somehow I think from the student point of view, it's really complexity in terms of their thinking. They have to sort things out. Well, they have so many things in their minds, and there's so many choices around. But they just that maybe you can get some idea to them that, for example, for vernacular type of project, right? What you should look at, all right, or some project like, for example, the high rise. What you should look at, for example, the high rise building, the structure might be the main purpose, something like that. I mean, they need something to focus on. I think that's why.
Okay, let me share one sample that I think is clear. It's done with one student of the 4 year that I here of the high rise, and I think here you guys can see that there is something wrong, and I think that you will see why. Okay, let me. Okay, everybody can see the slides?
Yes.
Okay. This student, when you can see, you can guess the student is from Cambodia, right? This is the site. Okay, so when the student is visiting the site, he come up with this idea. Oh, I have visited the site and I saw that it's abandoned. Okay, and whatever element that is there for years is covering by the nature, no? So we need to do a high-rise building, okay? So then he started to think, okay, maybe I should explain how these elements, no, that you just leave it there and suddenly are covered by the nature, okay, can be a part of the design as a design element, no, for his architectural project, no. Then he came out from this sample, no, from Cambodia, no, like for example this one we can integrate the nature and we can integrate the buildings, okay. And sorry, and then he start to look how these buildings, no, these parasite trees are growing, no, and how the things is inserted in the nature, no. So he take a look and observe, no. So finally, it's like he start to think something like there is a tree, okay, and then the parasite tree start to be attached and start to link, and at the end dry the original tree and become with this kind of image, no? So basically, he started to represent, no, this kind of how can be this kind of geometry in this way, no. So there is a kind of, we are doing a high-rise building, no. It should be, there is a kind of a structure in the perimeter, and there is a kind of a space, no. So by thinking this thing, I mean, he can get this kind of outcome, no, that can be potential things about how to build that high-rise, no. Okay, so basically we have this thing, no. So when this is the design concept, no? Can you guys see already here the design concept by the observation of what is happening in the plot? Can you understand here that? Okay, when he starts to get this design concept and how to represent this design concept in terms of this diagram, because he come up with a kind of idea that there is a kind of circle, no? And there is this definition of the structure in the perimeter. So depends about the level of that you cut this thing. Some columns will be like this, but there is no relation, no? There is not always the same distance, no? So it's like very arbitrary, no? So becomes something like this. So at the end, it's like he can put here the main programs. He can put here the secondary programs, no? The small one, and the void area that is going to be something that he can play with, okay? Until now, everybody understand here what is the design concept, from where coming, and everything? Okay, clear? Any question? Everything clear? Yeah? Talk? I'm talking to anyone? Do I talking to anyone?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably let's try to work it on it to try to summarize all these things.
Okay. Okay. So then the students has this design concept, and he start to elaborate the building. And he come up that the building is this plan drawing, no? These schematic models that you are seeing here. Is these schematic models are talking about the design concept that he explained before? Yes or no? Hello? Anyone can answer? Are these drawings related to this theme?
This is the symmetric one that you were telling me about, right?
This is the one that I mentioned the other day, yes. But I think it's very clear, no? Can you see that these schematic models are talking about the same thing that the design concept?
No, it's very obvious, I think.
Yeah? Good. Good. The things that I want to say is that the process between the design concept and how we make the geometry to generate our plan drawings, okay, must be related, no? Because it's not happen like you are talking. We as a young, we saw this thing, no? You are talking about one story here, and suddenly you come up with an outcome, with a product that is fully different and is not related with the design concept. You got it? So these schematic models are not correct, no? According to your design concept. You can agree, you can disagree with your design concept, but this design concept is really powerful. Okay, you can like, you can dislike. Okay, you can elaborate more, you can not elaborate, but as design concept works, no? Because it's relating with a high rise, about how to make the primary and the secondary structure, blah, blah, blah. The only thing is that the plan drawings cannot be in this direction if you are talking about this design concept. Does anyone see this thing clear or not? Looks like I'm talking only for myself.
Ajahn, may I ask?
Yes?
Yes, go ahead.
You're not talking to yourself.
To look like for the schematic model, to look like the last design concept that he shows, how, in your opinion, how it's gonna look like?
It should be looking like this.
It should look like. Ah,
Because the thing that he tried to make is this geometry, this geometry, and cannot be, first of all, cannot be symmetrical. Okay? Do you see any symmetry in this image?
no,
So do you think that your proposal should be symmetrical?
no.
So if this is like that, and you have these elements in the perimeter, okay, these elements in the perimeter should be just fully straight, vertical, extrude vertically, or should be twisted.
It should be twisted,
Okay? That element,
like more organic.
yeah. So that element should be, rather than the symmetrical, should be defining a clear pattern as per this one, that is just one big, one small, one big, one small, one big, one small. Are we talking about that thing here? You know what I mean? The pattern of the elements that are touching in the perimeter of the building here are defining, I mean, according to the symmetry, okay, because there is one big space, one small, one big, one small, big, small, big, small, big, small. But if you look here, if you cut this section, there is no proper pattern saying that one is big, one small, one big, one small, okay? It's talking that there are something more related to this thing, right? That there are different sizes, there is a gap in between, okay? And there is no a sequence about one big, small, one big, small. So it's one big, very small, another medium, blah, blah, blah. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
So this thing is not fully related, okay?
Okay.
The things that I want to say is like, you don't need to say that my concept is one tree and I need to represent the tree as per it is. It's like you need to understand that the design concept is giving you elements for you to design, but you need to understand how to combine these elements of your design, okay, to represent that concept. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, can you guys now understand what is the things that we are talking with this? I think this slide summarizes pretty well what is the things that we are talking, no? The image of your design concept, how to make that geometry, okay? And the way to make this geometry is the way that by this combination of different layouts, which you can find, but in this sample is not very well done, it's not the case. But the idea is like, with this geometry, the things that you need to think is, where are the opportunities? How is the potential? What kind of a space you can get by this geometry? Okay, and mass variable spaces that you can get, more interesting are going to be your section, more interesting are going to be your plan drawings. See, maybe I can find another sample. I mean, this is one student that is developing this high-rise building, and well, she needs to improve many things, no? But let's say that we accepted this kind of geometry, okay, that are these three rectangulars with the void in the middle, okay? So there is one moment that you cannot put that your whole building is going to be the same from the bottom to the top. So then you will need to start to reproduce this geometry as a template, okay, and start to think the potential layout, different layouts that this kind of geometry is generating, no? So then you will need to represent in different ways how to fill up, no, that geometry, and what is the things that you can get, no, by double volumes, reducing, break down the layout more, and at the end you will start to see the complexity of that geometry. And when you jump and make this thing in the 3D, no, to find that matrix, okay, if you are understanding these kind of elements, then your tower will be, I mean, in this case, it's going to be very interesting, your proposal. if at the end we have one geometry, but we don't know how to maximize the potential of all the opportunities that this layout is offering to you, your building is not very, doesn't have a big content, so you don't have many things to talk. You should have this kind of diagram that is this conceptual diagrams, at the end, that is putting different cases, about how your building can be. So that kind of drawings is done with the scale 1 to 500. That is this one. Okay, if you know your building, that is something that is going to play with the footprint, okay, the underground, and something that is going to be elevated, but this thing that is elevated can be in many ways. So sometimes this thing that is elevated is going to be touching the underground, and it's going to be a program that is touching the underground part with the elevated part. Okay, sometimes that part that is elevated is giving me a void, okay, and it's totally elevated. Another one is just touching, So at the end of this kind of drawing is when you work with scale 1 to 500 to put the different potential ways that this concept that you are talking can give you different spaces, so you will have a kind of drawings like this, okay, and then you just highlighted where are the things, if you are talking about this footprint of the building, because it's the things that you need to highlight, and after that, then you come up with the reality, and your building is going to be something like this, Okay. So what is this main space? This main space is something unique, so you need to explain this thing, but all this thing is related since the early beginning, So you will see that suddenly this roof, in a structural way, because this roof is something very important, okay? And it's going to be you will understand this thing that at the end, what are you doing? You are doing a kind of big roof, elevated, that is something like this, Okay, so it's design concept. So with the small drawings, you just represent this thing and see the potential, the variety about how to play with all these different elements. Okay. Any other question?
First thing first, I think you guys, students, you should have a clear mind what your concept is. That's what I really worry, if some of you guys might haven't thought about concept, just have a building, just try to build something. That's going to be totally dangerous. You should have an idea. That is concept,
There is.
Are you guys pretty sure that you guys have the things called concept? That's what I worry. Maybe they don't even know that maybe they question what's concept and what they are working on. Is this a concept per se, or it is not? You want to discuss this? Can we pick someone and try to say like one, two words?
I think about their concept. I think many of the students have worked on the previously we done the theory, your own theory reviews and other stuff. I mean, they can pick up from that using their own theory.
Theory is a big one,
right?
And it condenses into later it's a concept, which is it's like a workable idea.
Mm-hmm. So they can, maybe the student can start from that theory that they did last semester, and then condense it, like just like Ajahn Maggie said. So you have a direction.
Okay, I've sketched some ideas. If this one is not real, it's just like suppose this one is a new style of like small office, like micro office. Office of Design Architect, you can zoom that. You know, my idea is like, I know the convention of the office is like the AR building or any office building that you're renting. It can be like a square box and there's probably hallways or corridor. It reaches to many rooms. So if I want to do is like, I start with the idea, the concept with, you know, relaxing is gonna, and I take the term fun because I know that the traditional, the conventional, you know, like normal office is boring. It is not fun. And it is only me when I work in my small cell. So I think about another term, which is fun and with you. So what I think what is against the normative design, my concept is to make it, you know, secondary. Ajahn Miguel says that there would be a primary, right? This is probably the primary. And I get down to the secondary. Is the correct term, Miguel? And
yes,
playfulness, yeah, playfulness and linkage, probably fun. I translate to like playfulness and informality. And then you, I translate into linkage. Probably I end the tertiary of the linkage as you as a linkage. And also I translated next to the tertiary, the third step of the color, which is the slide, gravity, and blob. And I elaborated onto the idea of blob by this diagram. Blob, slide, linkage, and gravitate. I took the form of blob because I know that square or block or rectilinear is so much like against the fun and playfulness. That's why blob would be my case. And when I circulate, rather than I walk, I go using slide. Okay, so this is a sketch. This is a sketch. And I use the term linkage in order to link people. This one is probably, you know, something like really common to your guys' ideas. And then I play with the trampoline, with the gravitate. That's why I translated everything conceptually into like something fluffy that's still connected by this diagram of spatial diagram. Actually, I don't have time to design the whole building. So the idea is like, I have the space in which I work and I sit and I work and I, you know, stand, and I can still see each other within, you know, like less bordered boundary. So this is going to be the space that I think, you know, I conceptualize. And the form is standing rather than, you know, sit like points into ground. I lift it up a little bit with a lot of several legs, something like that, in the air. So it is like a blob flying. This is my concept, okay? I can tell within a very brief story, and people get a grasp of what I'm trying to do. So this is how we work on concept, okay? This is like what I think if it's only one plate, one diagram, you know, put everything all together within one, and everyone will understand what you're trying to do. You don't need to talk a lot. But in your case, if you have put like, if you can put a perspective of the building, probably a building which is something here, it's gonna be very good, no? And people would see what is going on in your design at the stage. But in the very first stage of the very first month, probably conceptual sketch would be enough.
Very good sample, Ayamagi, very good.
You have tradition of, you know, in the market, what do other people do? You have to have argument, and you can say clear what's going to be your state of the art, your peculiarity, your uniqueness of your building type that you're trying to do. If you have these two, three things, and you know that, okay, I will execute it into something like a blob of space, flowing space inside, you know, similar to Chatpong when he plays with the, you know, greenery, and also like Thai houses standing against the Khao Yai things. And that is clear when he tells a story. Okay. Yeah. In your case, what is yours? You understand first. Theory is something really big. Okay, I elaborate because some of you guys might have thought, you know, confused with yourself. Theory. If it's a theory, you know that if your architecture, your project takes an idea Okay, like your idea is like, I'm going to design a museum. And my museum is not going to be, you have to know that if it's a thesis, it's not going to be not normal, right? It's just going to be special. In architecture, sometimes we call it it's peculiar. My peculiarity, it has to be something like cultural, essential. It's essentially. And you think that to make them like look cultural and essential, you need some way to shape this one, and you adopt the ideas which others have done a lot, which is about regionalism, and you pick one within regionalism, direct translate or copy. It is like the guy called Curtis, right? This is one, one way. And another guy who tried to translate into a modern term, it is another style, which is a Frampton. It's really, really popular among our students. This is theory, but it doesn't give you any building yet. Your building has to go back to the concept, what we are talking about today, by using like, this is hills, this is mountain, and these is Thai houses, standing there. This is the concept. This is something before you get to your project on the site. Your project would be here. Okay, that's the role of theory is here, is how to define what it makes your as a good or correct architecture for this case. Some of you guys think about, okay, if it's going to be correct, it's going to be a decent architecture in this thesis, it's going to be green. So you take different theory. So you guys take, okay, I would translate tectonic. This is another theory. So you guys think about only biophilic form, the form which is organic. These are the things that when you would define what is good architecture to you in this case, okay? But it's not a concept yet. The concept has to go back to how would you do it, specifically with peculiarity.
Previously, I mean, in the architecture, it's more related with the typology, and you study and do architecture based in the typology because there was not so many construction as nowadays, no? Before it was, we need to do a balnearium, we need to do a hospital. So it's all about typologies. Now it's a lot of construction and the things become more complex, and we try to break that typologies and make mixing function, playing with the structure, playing with the looking. So at the end, we start to talk about the concept, no? What is the concept? Why? Because we supersede all this history behind, no? There is no more this typology because it's boring, no? As per Ayamaki was explaining here, no? If I go to design this office, okay? If she want to have the fun, I mean, with the square shape of the normal typology, she's not going to get this concept, no? She cannot move forward. Okay, so that why is this thing of the design concept, no? I think Nakanya, I mean, and everybody, if I ask you what is the things that I mentioned today in the lecture, can you summarize in one picture how you can explain to others the things that we explained today? With the things that I explained you, can you represent? How you can represent the knowledge that I try to communicate today? If you need to explain to someone, what is the things that, how you are going to do it?
I think I can use that color wheel, but there needs to be like something more to explain about the concept is how we do it.
So
like in a unique way.
The point is for me to explain this thing of the design concept, I need to use some image that you guys know from so many years. So I thought, okay, I think the one that can be is this color wheel, no? Because by seeing the color wheel, when I ask, do you know how these things work? suddenly I think you were the one now that explained that there is a 3 primary colors, 3, not 2, not 5, 3, okay? And then there are the secondary, no? I can do combination and I have the secondary, and then I get the tertiary by linking this thing. So then I can have a very strong concept by using the primary, okay? Then I can use another concept, but it's going to be using the secondary and the tertiary, no? But this one is help for everybody to understand, at least if you don't understand the full the meaning of the things that we are talking. I mean, if you think a little bit at home, why this well, what is this thing, and how you can translate, okay, as easily you can see the relation about how to link this thing with the things that is writing in the book of architecture, no, and the way that appear, no. So the things that I want to say with this thing is like, this thing is a sample of the things that we are trying to explain today, no? That at the end you need a concept for everybody to understand the full picture, okay? So before I explain something, as soon as you see this thing, you know already what is the thing that is going to talk about it, okay? You understand now? You understand what I'm trying to say? Let me talk about this design. This is a museum, and the challenge here is just the site itself. There is one area that is the lower part. There is another area that is the upper part. I mean, I always talk the architecture is always for dummies, no? So we need to explain the concept in a very stupid way, no? So there is one part that is the lower, there is one part that is the upper one, okay? So then the building is here. So I need to put one structure. I need to put the function, no? This is a museum, so I'm going to have this unique space is very, very big, and I need to give one aesthetic, no? So what element the architect are doing here? At the end, this is the concept, no? If I give you this site, and I said, okay, you need to build based in this concept, okay? That this is a retaining wall. So a retaining wall is working, there is a lower part here, there is the upper part here. So this is the structure that the things that make is to avoid the soil to collapse, no? So at the end, this portion is the one that is going to be pushing this wall, and the load of this angle, no, the angle of report, this one will be vertical down, and this one will be reflecting here in this part of the wall, okay? So if we do the concrete rebar here, we will put one mesh, no, that is going to be 12 by 12, okay, 10 by 10, according to the forces of the structure, okay? So if I explain this thing, I mean, sure, you will be capable to see that this building, the aesthetic, okay, this one is like the wall, no? So this is the inner side, and this one is going to be, sorry, the inner side, and this one is going to be the outsider, no? So inside and outside. So at the end of this thing is the rebar, okay, of this wall, but in a huge scale. So the thing is, if I need to put the function in the space, pues this one is going to be a super retention wall, okay? So it means that the rebars, the distance from the rebar and rebar, if in a conventional wall is going to be 10 centimeters, pues this one is going to be from one column to another column, so I can do voids, no? So at the end, if I play with that concept, pues I can come up with this thing. This thing is the rebar, okay, from outside. This one is the rebar from inside, and this one is the rebar just to connect the two layers of the rebar from inside, from the outside face, and the one from inside face. So at the end, you come up with this aesthetic, no? So this aesthetic is talking about the function, no? The program that I'm putting, I'm talking about the structure, and it's talking about the beauty, no? About one aesthetic, no? Because this one are the primary elements, no? You get what I mean with this sample?
So the museum itself get the idea of the retaining wall and apply it into the museum, right?
Because the site, the problems of the site, the issue of the site. No? So they use that thing. We need to solve technically how to build, because the different levels between the lower part and the higher part, that is something like 30 meters. It's like we need to build a kind of a structure that at the end that the structure is going to work as a retention wall, but in a huge scale, in a bigger scale. Okay, so then how you can maximize this thing and make architecture.
And also the design of like the distance and the light that you show, maybe it's like the secondary or tertiary thing that you do in the color view, and all of them combine and make it into a big picture.
Correct.
Right. Oh, okay.
So at the end, the things that you need to use is like, for example, now you can remember that sample, not because the detail of that sample. You are going to remember that sample of that museum because of the retention wall concept.
Okay, that's fine.
You are going to remember this lecture not because of the details that we talk, just because the color well concept that I used to explain these three main ideas.
Okay, I understand now.
And now you will get, by that concept of this diagram, the color well, you will know that the primary are going to be the one of the book of Vitruvio, no? The stability, the function, and the beauty. And the other one is going to be all the details that you are elaborating in your thesis, because that is the unique things of your proposal. But the umbrella, the overall picture, it coming from a common understanding for everybody. A building is a structure, is function, and is aesthetic. Okay.
We spent a lot of time here already, and we're so grateful for Ajahn Maggie and Ajahn Miguelนะครับ. So to give us a very valuable lectures, workshops here. This is enormous, I mean, for us, for everyoneนะครับ.